With many businesses that are set to reopen on Friday, what happens to employees who decide not to go back to work?
Well, these are unprecedented times. So therefore, the commission, working with the governor's office, is looking at ways to address the safety needs and be supportive of both our employers and their employees. So no one's going to automatically get cut off if you don't go back. There are circumstances that exist now that don't normally exist. Someone could be diagnosed with COVID. Someone could be in quarantine. Someone could be caring for someone who's been diagnosed with COVID-19. There could be an individual who has childcare issues and can't go back to work because of that until they get those issues resolved. We're not going to automatically cut off benefits to anybody. We're going to look at each case on an individual basis. We're going to work with the employee. We're going to work with the employer to work through those things. Our commission is looking at situations now where we can maybe post some guidelines that provide people some insight, not insight, but some help in determining, okay, here's what I need to do in order to address this issue. So
what's a recommendation for someone that is right now receiving benefits that for whatever reason, because they're concerned about their safety, they may be in a vulnerable population, if they decide not to go back to work and their business reopens, what should they do?
If they decide to not go back to work, they should contact us and let us know why. If you're in a vulnerable population as described, for example, I think the Department of State Health Services has a description of vulnerable population, or individuals who are in that population. We're going to make exceptions. We're going to work with the individual. We're going to work with the employers too to help them find the qualified staff that they need. But we're going to work with individuals. We're not just going to cut anybody off because they don't want to go back into an unsafe situation. Now, there are probably individuals who simply say, look, I don't want to go back because I don't think it's safe. When the employer is following all the safety guidelines that have been promulgated, again, we'll look at that on a case-by-case basis. It's not going to be an automatic, you're getting cut off.
One viewer asked us, when their employer reopens, if they go back with reduced hours, do they still qualify for benefits?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. If you go back to work with reduced hours, or if you take a part-time job, any place, you would still be eligible for benefits. The only thing that I urge in that case is make sure you report your income to us. Because if you don't report your income to us, then it creates what's called an overpayment situation. And if you have an overpayment situation, then you're going to end up owing us money back. But you report your income to us. We calculate what the revised benefit is. It does not affect, by the way, the $600 that was made available through the CARES Act. That's a fixed number. So it doesn't affect that $600. It only affects the base unemployment insurance benefit.
What if a business can reopen under phase 1 of the governor's guidelines, but the business decides not to? What happens to the benefits for those employees as well as the employer who makes that decision?
Nothing happens to those employees' benefits. They continue to receive their benefits. It's not through any fault of their own that they're not working, so they continue to receive their benefits. If the employer decides that they're not quite ready to open yet, there are no ramifications that I'm aware of that would impact that employer, unless now, and this is not my area of expertise, unless that employer got a small business loan or something like that through SBA that had some other provisions in it. But that would be something between SBA and the employer, but not between TWC and the employer.
Do you expect a major change in the volume of unemployment claims to happen after phase 1 starting next week?
It's hard to tell because what we're seeing now is more oil field workers are coming into the system. So as we start opening the economy on that side, we've got the situation where oil field workers are getting laid off or furloughed or let go and are coming into the system. Uh, so, it'll be a little bit of a challenge to see what we see, but I can't project right now that we'll see it coming down because of these other changes. Now, the one thing that we know is people are hiring right now. Not only the companies that are the businesses that are just now opening up, but other businesses that have been hiring. And we project that to continue to increase the number of jobs that will be available, not only to the individuals affected by COVID-19, but to the individuals affected in the oil field industry and in other industries. There'll be jobs there for them to be able to match up to.
Ed, we still hear from people almost daily that are still struggling to get through on a phone line to the Workforce Commission. Is there any reason to believe that that is going to change, that it's going to get easier for people to call?
We're doing everything we can to address the phone issue. I would like to note that the majority of I think I mentioned the 1.9 million that have successfully filed a claim, 1.9 million Texans. The majority of those, and vast majority, 90, 94, 95%, were filed online. But we've added call centers, we've added individuals receiving calls. We're adding a new tactic, which is outbound calls. We're going to be contacting individuals that we know of. As an example, an individual whose benefits are getting ready to expire and the CARES Act automatically extends their benefits. They don't need to call us, and it would be helpful for us to express to your viewers, if that's the case, don't worry about calling us. We're going to contact you with instructions. We're going to extend your benefits, and then we're going to add the $600 to that. But what we're beginning to see, and maybe I can implore you to help us a little bit, have your viewers help us a little bit, what we're beginning to see are people who are calling in just to check on things. They've already gotten a claim filed. They submitted their payment request. We've confirmed their payment request and told them, yes, you're going to get this much. It's going to be deposited on this day, or you're going to get your debit card on this day. But they're still calling us just to check. We had one individual a week or so ago that called us over 1,000 times. So we called him. We looked at his record. We couldn't see that anything was wrong. Everything, not his record, but his file. Everything was fine. He was set to pay. We were going to make a direct deposit last week, which we did. So we reached out to him, and what we found out is when we talked to him, he said, "I just wanted to make sure." Well, we get the anxiety, we get the stress that individuals are under, but that 1,000 calls prevented some people that needed to file a claim from getting in. So we're going to ask individuals, if you're all set to go, if we've told you you're good to go, you're getting your payment, please don't call us to verify it. If you're an individual whose benefits have expired or getting ready to expire, don't call us. We're going to be reaching out to you. I promise you, we're going to be reaching out to you with instructions, and we're going to take care of that. Plus, we've got some other outbound calls that we're making to try to help reduce that volume. I don't know if I mentioned or not, but yesterday we received over 2.2 million calls to our 8 call centers. Now we have over close to 2,000 telephone lines in those call centers. That doesn't include the people calling our IVR, our voice response system. But 2.2 million calls, that's about 60 calls a second. It's a physical impossibility to answer that many calls. So if we can get people that don't need to call us to please not, save that opportunity for individuals that still need to file a claim. And then also, I think our outbound program, we should start seeing some improvements there.
As you mentioned, people are anxious though with their benefits. And I think the tendency is when people don't hear, they think something is wrong. What is the reasonable expectation in terms of a wait from the time they file and have their stuff to the time they receive their benefits or the time that they hear back from you guys?
So here's a reasonable